Okay, it's kind of like the word of the month right now. We keep hearing, it seems these days we're talking about tariffs all the time. Some economists and experts say that the recent moves will force American companies now to raise their prices to turn a profit. But how much does this really impact you and all of us?
Certified financial planner professional Jim Lineweaver here to break it all down for us. Talking about the T word, tariffs. Exactly what does that mean?
Well, tariffs are, think of it as a tax on goods that are brought into your country. And what it's trying to do is protect your local industry so that people buy the domestic goods, not the foreign goods, right? But we as a country are running one of the biggest deficits in the world, and we're at like $1.1 trillion, and it's just getting out of hand.
Okay, so talk about how this affects doing this to all these other countries. How does this affect people here at home?
Right. Well, it could be a little inflationary, which we have to be careful about because prices could rise.
Right.
If you look back to 2018-19, when this was imposed on China before, so these tariffs today are much more widespread. Many countries, right? Back then it was really against China, and we actually created a trade war, right, for a little while. So, but what happened back then was your consumer price index only changed about 1.5 to 3%. Not that big of a deal, right?
So it didn't make a big difference.
Yeah, so but not as what they're talking about today,
Yeah.
right? So what happens is usually on average you may see prices go to the consumer between 30 to 50%. But the problem is, you know, it keeps negotiating, you know, tariffs on, tariffs off. But there's companies out there that are already trying to push this through, which really isn't correct either, right? Wait till the tariffs happen. But they could be inflationary, but really it's about trying to get this trade imbalance taken care of and eventually get more production in the U.S., which could help everybody.
I was going to say, are these tariffs on things that we produce and make here, or is it exclusive to stuff that we can only get from these other countries?
It's really both. So take advantage, like take a circumstance like our auto industry. We're sending autos to the European Union over in Europe, and they're imposing a 10% tariff on our autos that are being sold there. But when their autos come to the United States, we're only imposing 2.5%.
Right, that's the part that a lot of people forget. Most of these tariffs are reciprocal. I mean, I was reading the other day that Canada charges us a 250% tax tariff on dairy goods, U.S. dairy, 250%. What?
Right.
Trump, he's trying to impose a lot of 25 max, 50% max tariffs just to make things a little more even. It's not like we're trying to take advantage of anyone, correct?
Right. Well, what also happens, we have to understand that he's not a political negotiator, he's a corporate business negotiator. So the tactics are a little different. A lot of times he's firing over the bow, get a pretty good wake-up call, right? And then come to the table and negotiate with me. So people may not agree with his tactics, they may not be communicated in the best way, but in the end, if we can get these more on an equal playing field, we also have to remember we've had a great economy the last couple of years. So we like to consume goods, right? So part of the problem is a lot of the consumption that we as U.S. consumers want are from goods that are produced outside the country.
Unfortunately.
And we need to bring those back in, right? And we're not people that just want to say, oh, I don't want to buy that today, but we want it.
True.
And we want it today.
And we want it on our Amazon, and we want it delivered overnight.
Right,
To
exactly.
be there when we wake up at our doorstep.
Yeah.
In the long run, Jim, some people are feeling the pinch right now and can in the next couple of months, next year maybe. In the long run, do you think this could be good?
I think it can, and that's the intention, right? Because what happens is if you really look at relating to the stock market in your portfolios, which everybody's concerned about, right? So we put out a lot of commentary that says this first 6 months is going to be very volatile, and we've had 2 great years. But we have to remember, 50% of the return of the S&P 500 last year was from the magnificent 7 stocks, Amazon, Meta, things like that, right? So if they kind of turned over in the first part of this year, and that's what's really creating a lot of the volatility. If you look more broadly at like dividend producing stocks and maybe your ones that aren't so volatile, those have actually held up very well. So in periods like this, you have to have somebody that's very proactive with your portfolio, not reactive. Like we put gold in the portfolio a while ago. It's done extremely well as a hedge.
Gold.
Yeah,
Yes.
right? So we did that as a hedge.
Consistently.
You're finally listening to Gabe for financial advice. I'm glad that's
he gave us a good tip.
We need to lean on the professionals is what you're saying, because it is a volatile time. We don't know what to do. This is unprecedented territory, some might say. We got to lean on people like Jim Lineweaver.
You do, because also if you really look at the corrections that are out there, so from peak to where we are today, we're at about a 10% correction in the market. Historically, over the last 100 years, when you've had about a 10% correction, that's occurred maybe 60% of the time. A 15% correction has occurred 27% of the time. kind of bad news, right? The good news is, on average, in those years when we had that volatility, the end of the year, on average, was up 15%. Okay?
Jim Lineweaver,
there's some
we
good
have your
news.
information on our website, fox8.com. Reach out to Jim today for more professional advice. Good stuff
Thank
as always.
you. Always.
There's hope.
This
Great to
was
see you.
We're going to
great.
get through this.
Here we
A
are.
good education for all of us on tariffs. I love it. Thank you.